Welcome back to Metal Month, the easy line from Toontrack, which is EZDrummer, EZBass, EZKeys, and EZMix. The reason why I think those programs are so valuable is because new users can download them, turn a couple knobs, drag a few things around, and they're making music fast. The reason why I've stuck with the easy line for so long is because the more time you put in, the more advanced workflows you can get out of them. It's fantastic. And today is an advanced tutorial. I'm going to talk about automation. And if you're a new user, have no fear. I have a playlist just for new Toontrack users. The link's down below in the description. I'm Sean from Shootie School. Check out ShootieSchool.com for complete courses and hundreds of free videos, just like this one. Let's get started. We may or may not already be familiar with automation from using our DAWs, so here's a super generic example. I've got a click track, metronome track here, and here's the volume right here represented by this horizontal line. I'm just going to click in here and make some nodes, and I'll turn the volume down of the click, and then I'll turn it back up. And when I play back this metronome track, you will see the fader move. Check it out. There it goes, and it's going to come right back up. So that's automation, when you can move buttons, knobs, faders, and just a ton of things that can control parameters of effects or channels and stuff like that. Automation can control that for you at specific times while you're mixing. So what exactly can be automated when it comes to the easy line? Well, in EZBass and in EZKeys, if you expand the effects, these knobs can all be automated, and this master fader down here. Now, when it comes to EZDrummer, it's way better. Everything on the mixer tab, just about everything, the faders, the buttons, the sliders, and the knobs can be automated, as well as the master fader. When it comes to EZMix 3, it's not a virtual instrument like the other Toontrack products, so the workflow is a little different. We'll cover that at the end of this video. And as for the non-easy line product, Toontrack's flagship 𝗪𝗓𝗔𝗔𝗪, it automates as well, and its workflow is identical to EZDrummer 3, which is why we're not going to check it out today. Just know that 𝗪𝗓𝗧 automates. I threw together a couple riffs for this tutorial, and I got it all laid out in a DAW. And when I'm thinking about automation, I might decide that when I'm playing slower, as in there's less chops, there's lots of space, lots of room to breathe, I might want more ambience or more effects or more reverb, because there's more space in between the notes of the instruments to allow the effects to have a place to sit. For example, here's a halftime riff right here. That's pretty slow. We're only hearing the snare once per measure. It's a halftime feel. And then I might feel the opposite when I go faster or have more aggressive or progressive riffs and compositions, because there's less space, there's a lot more notes to listen to, and adding effects and ambience and reverb at that time might take the clarity away from the musicianship. So I might want to peel back effects, and an example of that is in my verse. It's more double time compared to what we just heard, like this. So let's automate the reverb and the ambience and see if we can get a looser sound for those halftime feels and a tighter sound for the double time feels. So we're doing just generic but really obvious examples just to make sure you can hear what's going on, because I don't want to make a move on a fader just 10%. A lot of us can't really hear that. So we're just going to do drastic examples. On the mixer tab, I basically turned stuff up to exaggerated. I cranked up my stereo ambience mic right here, and I cranked up my reverb, and I also extended the tail of the reverb as long as it'll go. And here's what it sounds like. Here's the drums. So you can hear how long the tail of that snare's lasting, and you can just hear the roominess of the drums. Now, let's just use that tone for this halftime feel riff. Great. Now that we've decided what we want to automate, those two faders, when we get up to this first section, I want this reverb to come down to here, and now roughly, and I want the ambience to come down to here roughly. Now listen to the drum tone. Oh, that's a big difference, and it sounds really tight. Oh, I actually like that a lot. Let's talk about MIDI real quick. Most of us know, or at least subliminally know, that when you send a MIDI note, which can also be represented by a number, from one destination to another, you trigger a sound. So if I'm on a keyboard or an EZKit, or if I'm in the grid editor or in a piano roll in your DAW, if I send like a C1 note to a destination, EZDrummer, for example, I might hear a kick drum. So that's the MIDI that we're all kind of familiar with using. CC is a different type of MIDI, which sends a value alongside of our MIDI notes. Now, they don't trigger notes particularly. They usually trigger something or automate something that has a parameter that can be used, like a knob, a fader, a slider, a button, and probably many, many more things. A great example of what you see on a regular basis probably is on a keyboard, you know, the pitch wheel that you turn or bend, the knob, the stick, that is actually sending CC data. So you hit the note on the keyboard, which is a note, but then you adjust the pitch, and that sends CC value data down the line to say, hey, bend the note like this. So we're going to be using CC data to automate in our EZLine products. So at this point, we just need to assign a CC number to the things we want to control on EZDrummer 3's mixer tab. So I'll go over to the reverb. I'm going to right click on the fader, go to bind to CC, and we're going to bind a CC number to this fader. And you can choose anything under the not assigned a list. As you can see, CC numbers are actually used on a regular basis. We should not choose the ones up here that are already assigned. And I'm going to choose CC30. And I also want to adjust the ambience fader. So I'm going to right click on it, bind it to CC31. Now, these two faders have an assigned CC value to it. Where do we control it? We do that on the grid editor tab. If we go over where we always adjust velocity, this is actually called the MIDI values editor, and I'll expand it with this little button right here. Here we see all the velocity for our song. Quick tip is if you go above the slope, there's these three horizontal dots. You can grab that and raise it up, and that'll give us a lot more room to work in, which is really important when it comes to programming the nodes for automation, which are little tiny dots. Then you select where it says velocity, because this is actually a menu, and we can see the CC values that we assign. CC30 is on reverb, CC31 is on the ambience. So let's select reverb, and here we have a blank slate. So let me just, for an example, I'm going to turn the resolution up to 30-second notes, and I can just kind of draw in dots like this. And if we hit play, I'll go to the mixer tab. Let's watch the reverb. That knob's already bouncing around, and it's reacting to this line that I drew. It's pretty cool. I'm going to hit undo. Now, what I want to do is I want to turn automation on and off on the downbeat of a measure, on beat 1 at a measure, because I want to make moves where the faders or the knobs just change during sections of the song. And a good tip for that is not to use a high resolution. I'm going to start with 1:1, which is 1 bar at a time. So now if I draw CC dots, you can see how far apart they are of each other, right? I'm going to hit undo. I'm going to go to the beginning of the song, which is measure 8. Now, this can get a little tricky or quirky, but this is an advanced feature, so you got to experience it a little bit and also listen to my exact verbiage, and it'll go pretty smoothly, okay? What I want to do, which is really great for beginners just starting out, is my resolution's at 1:1, which means less dots as you move. And I want to click right on the downbeats like this. And as you can see, this dot, which is called a node when it comes to automation, appeared. And this line came out for the entire intro MIDI block here, groove here. And now for the next section, I might decide where I want the reverb fader to be. And I'll click on the next downbeat, except now we're on measure 17. And now that's for the entire chorus. And now these verses, since these are just shorter grooves, they're probably just 2 or 4 measures, 25, these are 2 measures long. So now we see, you know, lines that only represent how long these grooves are. Now, if you program like this, which is a great place to start, you're not going to see any negative attributes like your MIDI blocks merging together by accident or unintentionally, which will happen here and there. And when you see that happen, you can undo it and try and draw your automation again, or you can just, who cares, because when your MIDI blocks merge, your MIDI doesn't change. It's just the visual representation and the song track changes. So I'm going to program it in such a manner that that doesn't happen. So now that I've laid this node in, I'm actually not sure the exact value of this node because there's no scaling over here. You know, we're talking CC values, so down here would be 0, and at the very top would be 127, so this is somewhere around 100. I'm going to grab my arrow tool, click on it and drag it, and we can see a tooltip value. So here's 100. What does 100 mean on a fader? I'm not sure. It's probably close to unity gain, and this knob or fader is not going to change until I hit play, and then the mixer tab will see where this is at. So I'm going to hit play and let's see where that line was at. That was at 1.5 dB. So I'll just go over the grid editor tab, raise this up around here. I'll hit play again. Now it's at 5.3. So now I know 7's right about here, and that's close enough for me. What I want to do is tell the grid editor that from here all the way up to measure 25 should be this value. So I'm going to grab my pencil tool and just keep clicking it in. One cool thing to notice after you lay down your first node, when you have the pencil tool selected, look at that horizontal line that follows my cursor around. It's like a leveler tool or something. That's how I see it with baking when you level off your measuring cups. You can actually see where your last node was clearly just by watching that leveler tool, and there it is right there. So I'll place that line in there. And if it's a little short, I don't really care about it being 1 cc value off. But if you do, you can just click it and drag it with your arrow tool and put it where you want it, okay? And now, like I said, I want this to happen all the way up to the verse, which is measure 25. Now I want the reverb fader to drop down. So I'll grab my arrow tool, click and drag a CC value. That's how you edit a CC value right there. Let's bring it down to 28. And I want this to continue throughout. Like I said, this can be faster if you're just clicking and start drawing, but you're going to see some of your MIDI blocks merge. So it's up to you if you want to do that fast way, because that fast way is much faster. But I just want to prevent the most amount of comments below by doing it slow and steady like this. And I'm going to keep clicking through until I make it to measure 37. I'm almost there. And then for measure 37, which is the chorus again, that's that halftime riff, I'm going to bring it back up here, and I'm going to look at this leveler horizontal line, which will help me place that easily and quickly. If I zoom out, yeah, we're in good shape. Like I said, I could just click and drag this across if I wanted, but I'm just going to place these lines on the downbeats because I want these easily measurable horizontal automation nodes coming out. Now I'm at the verse again, so I'll bring it down here. And now that we're kind of familiar with what I'm talking about, you can see how fast I'm moving now. It gets pretty easy if you know what you're doing, you have a game plan. And like I said, if you don't like how these are off a little bit, just grab the arrow tool and you can nudge them where you want them, just like that. Okay. So now I've written automation for the whole track. My verse into pre-choruses will have less ambience and less reverb, and everything else will have a lot of ambience and a lot of reverb. Let me do my pre-roll from 21, just so we're not hanging out, just listening to my rough riffs. Okay. Let's watch the mixer tab. Here we go. Here's the change. That worked, but there wasn't a huge change, just the reverb moved. I think the secret is probably in the ambience channel, okay? So let me go back over the grid editor. I'm going to right click in a blank area, just like you would in the grid editor, and I'm going to select all, and then I'll select any node and hit copy. Now I've copied the entire song of automation. And let's keep careful note that where this first note is, it's on measure 8. Now I'm going to go from my CC value 30 to 31, which controls the ambience, which there's no automation written yet. And I'm going to particularly put my cursor down, my playback head down, before I right click and select paste. Now we've written that same exact automation onto the ambience channel. Now let's hear the difference. We're waiting for this change from the chorus to the verse right here. Here we go. So that was extremely dramatic, but boy, did that just give you proof of concept on how you can get multiple different sounds out of a single, preset here. I mean, we can tweak it throughout as much as you want, as much time as you're willing to put into it. That was pretty cool. And that was over dramatic. Even though I said I was going to do dramatic examples today, let's tighten it up a little bit just so we have an excuse to edit this data real quick. So the ambience channel really had the over dramatic effect. And I want this stuff that's down here that brings the ambient channel down, I want to move it up a bit just so it's not such a drastic move. So I'm dragging a marquee. By the way, I have my arrow tool selected. I'm dragging a marquee around just the lower nodes, and look, the upper ones are not selected, and I'll just grab them and bring them up. Now let's hear it. Watching this guy right here. Here we go. Yeah, I think that's going to work much better, and with the rest of the music turned up and not soloed up, it'll probably cover up that move better, but let's not cover up that move. Let's automate it just a little bit more. I'm going to grab my pencil tool, and now I think it's appropriate to have a higher resolution here, so let me move this up to 30 seconds. And what I want to do is, this drop in fader is happening on measure 25. I want it to happen from measure 24 to measure 26, so it's more of a blend. So I'm going to click here on measure 24 and draw to 26. Now let's hear this. We're watching this fader right here. Oh, I think I made it way too long. Let me undo that move. Let's draw from 24 1/3 to 25 1/3. Yeah, that totally worked. I might do it a little faster like this, but you get the concept, right? Now we're just blending that fader move from one position to another with a higher resolution. And we didn't merge any MIDI blocks in the meantime, so we're doing everything right. So I might do that move over here as well. Something like this. I'm not even going to listen to that because I just want to keep the tutorial rolling. But that totally worked. Let's hear it with music. Just use your ears this time. I'm pretty happy with that, definitely. A last note in workflow for particular Toontrack users. A lot of Toontrack users don't want their MIDI in the song track of their Toontrack product. They prefer it in their DAW because that's their preference with workflow. So I'm going to delete it out of EZKeys. This MIDI is now on the same track that EZKeys has been inserted on, so we're going to still hear EZKeys trigger from this MIDI in the correct track. Automation still works exactly the same. I'm going to automate this filter knob right here. So I'm going to bind it to a CC, just like we've been doing. I'm going to put it on CC 20, go over the grid editor, expand the MIDI values editor, and I'm going to find that CC. It looks a little different because this is the latest Toontrack product. Now it's in this submenu, assign CC filter. It's right there. And now I can just grab the pencil tool and start writing automation. It will see this filter move now. So automation works exactly the same, even if MIDI is in your DAW's instrument track. But we do see an empty MIDI block down here. That contains the automation. Don't get rid of it unless you want to delete the automation, which I will now. I'm going to reset this knob. Now we hear EZKeys as intended with no automation. One other way to do it, which I can't teach you because every DAW is going to be slightly different, but we know we assign that knob to CC20. If you remember, you can actually automate straight from your DAW. You don't even have to automate in EZKeys. That's a huge advantage for those of you that are experts in automation in your DAW. So really quick, this is not a tutorial, just showing some examples. I'm going to add a CC value, and 20 should be around here somewhere. It's right here. I'm going to add it so it's available. I'll hit OK, and then I will automate 20. Which is right here. And now I can control that knob from my DAW, and we're not even touching our Toontrack product. Our Toontrack product just needs to be activated on the channel, and all the magic will happen. So I haven't done this in a while, but let me just do something for example. There we go. I just automated this knob, hopefully. Here we go. There it is right there. So that's 2 ways to automate if you prefer not to have your MIDI in the song track of your Toontrack product. Now in EZMix 3, you can automate every slider, every button, and every fader. And a reminder is this video is not about teaching you how to automate in your DAW, but let me give you a head start when you decide to do that. Is when you look in the plugin wrapper after you load EZMix in your DAW, look around the wrapper and you'll see some controls. In Reaper, I'll give 1 or 2 examples. I'll select the parameter menu, track controls, and here's everything in EZMix 3 that we can automate. I'll just select low cleanup, which is this fader right here. And now we have a knob in Reaper, and if I turn it, it controls that knob, and we can automate that knob in Reaper. Another example, we'll just do Pro Tools real quick. Look, I'm looking around the wrapper, and here's some controls. I'll select this button, and here's all those controls again. Let's do a quick example. Here's cymbal control. It's right here. I'll add that to be automated. I'll go to the track. I'll select it. Just draw on some quick automation like this. Let's hit play. Watch this fader. I'm Sean from Shootie School. Check out ShootieSchool.com for hundreds of free videos just like this one and complete courses. Check out my Discord and Facebook groups. Links are in the description. Thank you so much, Toontrack, and I'll see you next week for Metal Month at Toontrack.com.